Okay, so let me just start the video off by saying this. I enjoyed this movie. I think it's good. It's a very divisive film from what I've heard. Some people saying it's one of the worst movies ever made. Some people even in my theater saying that as they were walking out. And some people saying it's really great. I line my opinion up with it is fine. So, with that being said, let me tell you what I thought about Mother. Well, I'll be honest. For a good majority of the runtime, I was hooked on the story. From the first shot to the ending of the second act, I was on board with this story. I honestly thought in my chair, if it keeps doing what it's doing, it could be a masterpiece. Because it's filmed like my favorite kind of movies are filmed. Movies that don't necessarily tell you the whole plot, like just flat out. Darren Aronofsky kind of does this with his directing too. He makes movie stories that are kind of like puzzles. You know, movies that make the audience member kind of work. And by the end of the movie, you'll have a full puzzle that is your interpretation of the movie. I mean, sometimes movies will have like little puzzle pieces that are missing that you have to interpret. And those are my favorite movies. And the movie was doing that for the first and second act. And I was loving it. He introduced these things that were, I thought, like symbolic. Like, oh, this symbolizes this. I get that. But then he'll introduce another thing that contradicts what I thought. And I was like, oh, well, this is what it's supposed to mean then. And he kept doing that. And I was thinking, okay, by the end of this movie, I'll have a good puzzle piece laid out, and I'll have some questions left behind that could fill in the blanks. But the third act of this movie, I think, really drops the ball, in my opinion. The third act of this movie is where I think people came up with the idea that it's one of the worst movies ever made. It does not feel like you were watching the same movie as the first and second acts. It throws all subtlety out the window. It wasn't even very well handled either. It felt like a film school student was directing it. It was very pretentious in what it was trying to convey. It felt very shock value, just to have like, oh, look at this. Is this not grossing you out? Is this not making you question things around you? Without dragging on what the third act felt like, it was disappointing. It did have a cool little sequence around it. I'll admit it was very well shot, very well directed, but that did not save it from just throwing away everything that the movie had going for it. And it was incredibly lackluster. And it really dragged the story down for me. However, there's one thing I think this film does spectacularly. It's the camera work and just cinematography. Not only is this a gorgeous looking film, but it has its own personality to it. The camera work does. It really fits the psychological horror aspect of the movie very well. It feels like an addition to the movie. Because it's very up close work, very like handheld kind of stuff. Very personal stuff. And it really fits what the movie was going for. This uncomfortable uneasiness to it. Like for instance, there's a whole scene with Michelle Pfeiffer where she's just like right in the camera. Just like staring at the camera, and I have to be honest here, my skin was crawling. It really felt that surreal. And not only was it surreal, it was shot on film, which gives it that grimy feel to it. The camera work really felt like its own personality in the movie, and I have to give major props to the cinematographers of this movie. They did a fantastic job with it. And lastly, the characters and performances. I think it goes unsaid that every single actor in this movie does a fantastic job. I mean, they're like the go-to people in Hollywood right now. Javier Bardem, Jennifer Lawrence, Michelle Pfeiffer, Ed Harris. All terrific actors. And they all fit the personalities of their characters very well. Jennifer Lawrence in particular caught my eye with her uneasy portrayal of her character. Because every single character before the third act happens has like this blanket over them. You don't understand necessarily what is wrong with them. They're kind of just uneasy people. They don't feel like normal people you'd bump to on the street and say, hey, you got the time? They just feel like awkward, weird people. And some just feel like they know way more than they're letting off. And every single actor performs extremely well. Javier Bardem, he portrays sort of like a guy with secrets. And he has secrets, and his performance really shows that in like little subtle nuances that he does. And Jennifer Lawrence, she's just a kind of recluse. She doesn't really like other people other than Javier Bardem, and she does that quite well. Ed Harris and Michelle Pfeiffer, I have to be honest here, Their performances were so good, I still don't understand what they were trying to get at with their performances. I mean, I kind of understand what their characters represented in a symbolic nature, because that ending act really spoiled a lot of things, including the subtlety of their characters and what they meant, but still, everyone did a fantastic job, and they should all be commemorated for how well they did. So, beautiful people, that leaves me with a score. I will give this a 7 out of 10. I do think it is a good film. I think it has some undeniably good things in it. Great camera work, good cast performances, and some enthralling parts in the story. However, it has that one really bad thing, the last act, that's not going for it and really punches the movie in the face for a lot of people. I don't know, maybe time will tell and some people will change their opinions on it, or maybe everyone will just remember this as the movie that had a crap last act. I can't tell. So, have you seen Mother? Tell me what you thought about it. Do you think it's one of the worst movies ever, or do you think it's one of the greatest Darren Aronofsky movies ever? Or do you just think it's good, like me? Tell me what you thought. And, you know, do all that YouTube stuff if you want. I'm not telling you if you should. It's your own opinion, yeah? Just, you want, you give me a boost in confidence, and it'd be very much appreciated. Peace out, peeps. I'll see you for the next internet thing, and you're all really nice people. Thank you very much for your support, and I will see you.